It started with the front door. Adrian Gomez lives with his partner in Los Angeles, where their first few days of sheltering in place for the coronavirus pandemic proved uneventful. They worked remotely, baked, took a 2-mile walk each morning, and refinished their porcelain kitchen sink. But then one night, the doorknob began to rattle vigorously, so loud that he could hear it from across the other side of the apartment, yet no one was there. In mid-April, Mr. Gomez was in bed when a nearby window shade began shaking against the window frame so intensely, despite the fact the window was closed. An adjacent window shade remained perfectly still. The cats were all accounted for, and no bug nor bird nor any other small creature had gotten stuck there. That, Mr. Gomez thought, it was an earthquake. He said, "I very seriously hid myself under the comforter, like you see in horror movies, because it really did freak me out." Now, though neither he nor his partner noticed any unexplained activity at home before this, the couple can distinctly make out footsteps above their head. However, they live on the top floor. Mr. Gomez said he is a fairly rational person. He's 26 and works in IT support. He said, "I try to think, what are the reasonable, tangible things that could be causing this? But when I don't have those answers, I start to think, maybe something else is going on. And they're not alone, possibly in more ways than one." For those whose experience of self-isolation involves what they believe to be a ghost, their days are punctuated not just by Zoom meetings or homeschooling, but by disembodied voices, shadowy figures, misbehaving electronics, and invisible cats cozying up on the couches, caresses from hands that aren't there, and even in some cases, and to borrow the technical parlance of Ghostbusters, free-floating, full-torso, vaporous apparitions. Some of these people are frightened, of course. Others say they just appreciate the company. Before stay-at-home restrictions in New York, Patrick Hines, aged 42, left Manhattan with his husband and daughter to spend 6 weeks at an adorable little cottage in western Massachusetts, and they rented this on Airbnb. One night, Mr. Hines wakes up at around 3 a.m, thirsty for a glass of water. He said he walked into the kitchen and saw a white man in his 50s, wearing a well-worn World War II-era military uniform and cap, sitting at the table. It seemed normal in the split second before I realised, wait, what's happening? And as I turned to look, he was gone. If you were to accept the premise that ghosts are real, it stands to reason that some tension would naturally result once their flesh and blood roommates start spending much more time at home together. John E.L. Tenney, who describes himself as a paranormal researcher and is the former host of the TV show Ghost Stalkers, estimates that he received 2 to 5 reports of a haunted house each month in 2019, and lately it's been creeping up to more like 5 to 10 in a week. Mr. Tenney has seen something like this before. In 1999, just before Y2K, he witnessed a spike in reported ghost and poltergeist activity, as well as UFO sightings. He says, "It doesn't seem to have something to do with our heightened state of anxiety or hypervigilance." And Mr. Tenney has no doubt that the vast majority of these cases in his inbox are, well, completely unexplainable in nature. He states, "When the sun comes up and the house starts to warm up, they're usually at work. They're not used to hearing the bricks pop and the wood expand." He also states, "It's not just that the house wasn't making those sounds, they just never had the time to notice it." Or did they? Janie Cowan believes she has been haunted since college, and the ghost she calls Matthew has historically made his presence known in her Nashville home through the sounds of someone running up and down the staircase at night. "The noises are not like the house settling or like the cat walking around," said her husband. Around the same time, the couple began to self-isolate in March 2020. Mr. Cowan started to use their guest bathroom so that his wife, a home health nurse who has been picking up more night shifts during the pandemic, could sleep in without the sounds of his morning routine disturbing her. He has found that Matthew, the ghost, who both spouses agree prefer Mrs. Cowan, and doesn't seem to appreciate these changes. On 3 separate occasions, while showering in the guest bath, Mr. Cowan has been unexpectedly blasted with cold water. But it wasn't just a quirk of the plumbing. Every time, he said, he reached out to find that the hot water nozzle had been turned off. Maddison Hill, 24, is riding out the pandemic with her boyfriend in her apartment in Florence, Italy. Ms. Hill, a writer and teacher originally from Charlotte, North Carolina, had always had her suspicions about her home, particularly the bathroom, and there was a sense that someone was watching her, doors slamming, towels inexplicably falling to the floor. A few weeks into quarantine, she woke up to find something on her nightstand that did not belong there. It was a camera lens, one she'd brought from the United States, but she actually lost it when she moved into this apartment. And she had long given up on ever finding it, but here it was. And since then, other small objects, including a set of keys, have moved to strange new places inside her apartment. The reappearance of the camera lens in particular struck her as mischievous, a rather playful gesture, perhaps even a thoughtful suggestion that this could be the perfect time for Miss Hill, who majored in film in college, to pick up her old hobby. Kerry Dunlap shares a 1-bedroom apartment with partner Alexandra Cole. He saw her in the bathroom in the middle of the night, wearing green scrubs, standing an arm's length away from him. She appeared to be glowing. The woman vanished when he turned on the light. Mr. Dunlap knew that one of his friends, the couple is subleasing from, had spotted a ghost in the apartment, and both agreed they had seen an older Asian woman of small stature. Mr. Dunlap and Miss Cole, a 27-year-old writer and editor, used to find themselves in a routine late-night tug-of-war over the 2 small comforter they shared. And several weeks ago, Mr. Dunlap woke late at night to the sensation of what he assumed was Miss Cole adjusting the blanket at his feet to spread it evenly across the bed. And when the movement stopped, he didn't feel his girlfriend climb into bed beside him. He called out to her, and she didn't answer. Then she came back in from the bathroom. "It was so weird, dude," Mr. Dunlap said. But the incident left him and Miss Cole with a lingering positive impression, like whoever or whatever it was had been trying to make the couple feel more comfortable or to mediate a potential conflict between them before it happened. For Danielle, a 39-year-old lawyer, isolation predates this pandemic. She had been recovering at her home in Richmond, British Columbia, since contracting an unrelated illness over the winter. She first experienced strange activity in February 2020. She said when she kept walking into her guest house bedroom to find a particular lamp turned on, although she had no memory of leaving it that way. This happened again and again until on a whim she said out loud, "Don't turn that back on." The next time she entered the room, she found the ceiling light, which she never ever switches on, blazing. On more than one occasion, she has heard voices of a man and a woman having a conversation that she couldn't quite make out. And more recently, she was sewing face masks in the same bedroom. She had exactly enough fabric left to make one more mask, but when she just briefly turned away from the ironing board where she'd pressed the double cotton gauze, the 2 remaining pieces had disappeared. Danielle said, "Like in a 20-second period it was gone. I went and checked the garbage pile, nothing. Checked the recycling, nothing. My fabric stash, nothing. I tore the house apart looking for those 2 pieces of fabric, and they never came back.